call the Township of Hamilton Monday, June 19th, 2017 committee meeting to order. Could we stand for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building and by publication in the Press of Atlantic City on January 9, 2017, and the Atlantic County Record on January 11, 2017. Mr. Gishard?
Present.
Mrs. Link?
Here.
Mr. Shanker?
Here.
Mr. Silva?
Here.
And Mayor Kurtz.
Here. I'd like to call for a moment of silence for private reflection to remember Jeffrey Weiss of the Mays Landing section of Hamilton Township, who passed away Saturday night as the result of a motor vehicle accident. He was a member of the Woodlands Condominium Management. We have a presentation to do that we're excited about tonight. We're going to make a proclamation to present, and they're going to Amelia Perez and to Jacob Weber, ACIT valedictorians. And Art, would you help me with that? Sure. Thank you.
Good thing you didn't ask you with all your wet pants. Still think you had an accident. Good. I'll tell you to wear Pampers next time, right?
Very good. I'd like to ask, we'll present to make the presentations, and then we'll ask them to come up. So we have two of them, Jacob Weber and Amelia Perez. I'd like to read you a little information on this, and then our deputy mayor is going to read the other one. I'm going to read the information on Jacob. Jacob's here. Hi, Jacob. How are you? Good. Jacob is a lifelong resident of the Township of Hamilton, and he is a senior at the ACIT and the Academy of Math, Engineering, and Science. He lives with his parents, Janice and Ron Weber, his brother Joshua, who will be a junior at the Oakcrest Junior ROTC program next year, and his sister Emily, who will be a freshman at Oakcrest next year. He has a weighted GPA of 4.208, with a class rank of number 1 out of 320 students. Gold medal winner at the ACIT Skills USA team, awarded first place at the New Jersey Steam Tank Challenge, Technology Student of the America Club member, National Junior Honor Society, and National Technical Honor Society member. Selected as the 2017 top AMES student, member of the ACIT cross-country team. He completed an internship with the FAA Technical Center in Pomona. In the fall, Jacob will attend Rowan University with a major in electrical and computer engineering. He has been awarded grants and scholarships totaling over $11,000. And now, if Art, would you read Amelia?
Very impressive. It would have been more impressive if it was 4,000. Take 4.2, that's good too. Amelia Perez. So this is a tie, right? You know, flip of the coin, no arm wrestle, nothing, you got to share it. Is that how this works? That's good. Amelia is a lifelong resident of Hamilton Township and is a senior at ACIT, Academy of Math, Engineering, and Science. Lives with her parents, Ingrid and Hugo Perez, has a brother, Hugo, who lives in Pennsylvania. Amelia has a cumulative GPA of 2.17. Oh, excuse me, 4.217. Would that have stepped you? You probably would have lost with a 2 point. She was a member of She was a member of Oakcrest High School crew team for 3 years. Student ambassador for People to People, member of the National Technical Honor Society, participated in esteemed competition and teams competition. Organizes the Warm Hearts, Warm Bodies Coat Drive. In the fall, Amelia will attend Worcester Polytech Institute in Massachusetts with a major in civil and environmental engineering. She's been awarded scholarships totaling $190,000, including the first annual Dixon Associates Engineering Scholarship for Academic Excellence. Very nice. Now, therefore, we, the Township of Hamilton, Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton, the County of Atlantic, State of New Jersey, on this day, June 19, 2017, do hereby recognize Jacob Weber and Amelia Perez in honor of their remarkable accomplishments, their achievements, not only to credit their hard work and dedication, but as a credit to the support they had received from their families, friends, and teachers, and fellow ACIT students. We wish them success in the upcoming studies in college and in all their future endeavors. Congratulations.
And Jacob's right over here.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's not quite the $190,000 scholarship, but that's pretty good.
Want to get a picture? Come on, you stay on this side, and I in the middle.
Congratulations.
28,000 for the first, so.
It
She
probably
might come
doesn't.
out making money, huh?
No, I don't think so. It may not cover everything.
Yeah, I guess if it's about 50 grand a year, right?
There could be more. Checks will.
Okay, Charlie. Uh-oh, we got another one. It's a proud parent. And congratulations to the parents and the families. This is really something that achieved. We have a award that the township got, and I just wanted to recognize it. This is a certificate of recognition. The Atlantic County Board of Chosen Freeholders does hereby congratulate Hamilton Township upon being named the 2016 Municipal Alliance of the Year from the Atlantic County Municipal Alliance. This was presented at a luncheon today that some of our staff was at. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on this because there's some credit that needs to go out. Municipal alliances are commonly based committees, community-based committees established to address substance abuse prevention. There are 18 municipal alliances in Atlantic County, and our Hamilton Township Municipal Alliance was selected as the Atlantic County 2016 Municipal Alliance of the Year. Our alliance was selected due to the hard work of the alliance chair, Lisa Catalano. 2 years ago, our alliance was failing and was about to disappear, but Lisa stepped up and volunteered to take over as chair. As a result of her dedication and commitment, the Hamilton Township Municipal Alliance is thriving. The Alliance funds 5 substance abuse prevention programs that serve our elementary school, middle school, high school, including last week's project graduation. We're very proud of Lisa Catalano and the rest of the Municipal Alliance members who volunteer their time to support our community, and congratulations to our Alliance for being recognized. I just wanted to, Lisa Catalano couldn't be here this evening, but I certainly wanted to read this, and she'll get the word that this recognition happened. Thank you very much. Next, we have addition and deletion of late agenda items to be considered for action tonight.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstain. Number 2, early public comment on agenda items excluding those listed for public hearings.
Dr. Carmen is signed up. It's about the MUA.
Okay, and I had mentioned to Dr. Carmen that I was going to read something about having them come up a little sooner, so because it really wasn't on the agenda items. So what I'd like to do is we have residents of the Woods Landing community here tonight, a lot of them, and we're going to lose power. And as a courtesy to the members that are here, from the residents from Woods Landing, I'm going to see if it's all right with the rest of the committee that we ask them to come up early so they don't have to sit through this entire meeting tonight in order to be heard. So I'd like to give them that courtesy. So we know we have, is there anyone in the, who here is from the Woodlands? If you could just raise your, I'm not from the Woodlands, from Horizon at Woods Landing. Very good, a nice representation. First, I'm going to ask Phil. If Phil, you could come up and give us a little background on this, and I know you had spoken with some of the residents previously, and then we'll answer any questions.
Certainly. Mayor, members of the committee, last Friday, Mr. Jacobs asked if I would go over and meet with Dr. Carmen and some of the officers from the Horizons of Woods Landing Homeowners Association to discuss their proposal that when the project gets to the point where the final paving is put on the roadway, that the township take over the streets as municipal streets. Just as some background history, when this project was first approved by the planning board in its current form in, I believe, 2002 or 2003, it was proposed as a gated community with private streets to be maintained by the Homeowners Association. In 2008, actually 2009, by the time the agreement was finalized, and they got back to the planning board approved removal of the gates at the entry to the community, but there was no discussion at that point in time about the streets becoming public domain. They would remain private. And I've, went back through the planning board resolutions, and I'll provide additional copies of more detailed information. But there's nothing, other than that first resolutions indicating they be private, there's been nothing in documentation from the planning board saying anything to the contrary. When I met with Dr. Carmen, he expressed their concerns, and also pointed to the, I believe it's the Condominium Act provision in the law, which says if the roads are built to municipal specifications, we should be taking them over. Something that's A, above my pay grade as a township employee to make that decision. B, I think that the committee would want to have the solicitor take a look at this and be able to, if you authorize him to do it, to render a decision based on the legal expertise of your solicitor. And really, this is just, an introduction to, the ultimate decision will be made sometime in the future.
Okay.
What does council think? Is he?
Yeah. Evan, could you, do you have some comments on this?
Sure. We've only looked at this very, very briefly based on a conversation with Phil at the end of last week. It's the kind of thing that we need to spend a little bit of time researching and digging into the facts, touching base with the engineer, touching base with Phil on the planning issues, and also talking to the planning board solicitor. So this is something that's going to take some time to work out, and not something we can really answer tonight or in the very near future, at least.
Sure. I'm going to have Phil stamp it. I would have, Bob, do you have some questions you'd like to, or anything you'd like to say?
Well, I have things I'd like to say to the committee, and then if Phil has questions for me, or we have for each other.
Okay. If you want to come up and do that, you can do that now while Phil's here, and Evan, and we can listen to these things.
I'm not going anywhere, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
What I'd like to do, and for those of you who don't know me, my name is Bob Carmen. I'm the president of the Homeowners Association in Woods Landing. What I'd like to do is take a minute or two and give you some background and what's the problem and what's been going on, and ask for your help, because we need your help to finally resolve this issue. The problem is with the Municipal Utilities Authority, and it goes back even to 2007, and I found some correspondence in our files that has addressed this issue that said this needs to be resolved. When I met with Phil, he produced for me one of the pieces of paper that says we are a private community. And in fact, I went and looked at the master plan and made a copy, and I'll leave copies of this for whoever you wish to have.
Okay, for a solicitor.
But it says on the master plan, the big long pages that you have, multiple pages to look through, there is a footnote section that says, number 7, the project will be serviced by public sewer and public water, okay? Even though it mentions private streets, it still says served by public water and public sewers. It also makes a list of the items that the maintenance of the common grounds and everything that the association will be responsible for ultimately, and it makes no mention of sewer or water. And it goes very specifically from basins and ponds to landscaping, et cetera. So that's notable because it's absent. What we also need to point out is that the issue really was raised 3 years ago when a development, not ours, had a house fire and the fire department pulled up and they found a hydrant was not working. It was apparently never serviced, whatever the circumstances, and by the time they got water to the development, the house was on the ground. It had been burnt down. From our point of view at Woods Landing, we started saying, hey, wait a minute, we have hydrants, we're a building under development. When was the last time the hydrants were served? Well, we found out that for a period of 5 or 6 years, the Municipal Utilities Authority was doing it. When we approached them and asked them to come and check it and make sure that they're functioning and they have a good flow rate, the MUA said to us, you're private, we're not doing it. It's your problem. So we had our hydrants checked. That was the most important concern. We wanted to do it, whatever it would cost. We wanted to be sure that there was not a fire that would lose a lot of time in putting the fire out. And looking at all the stuff that was done by the planning board, yeah, it does mention we're private, but then it goes on to say, but we're being serviced by the public water and sewer. And I have copies of that stuff so that you could see that. What I want to point out is we pay the same rates as any other resident in the Township of Hamilton. We don't get a reduced rate or anything different because we are a quote-unquote private community. We get garbage pickup by the municipality. We have the police, the fire, everybody still services us. We even do snow removal and get reimbursed by the township for that. And by the way, we still pay the same taxes as everyone else, okay? And then when I started looking into some of the research, and I have copies of it here that I will pass to you, there's a New Jersey Title 40, which defines what a qualified private community is. And even if we are, there's an addendum further in the work, which I have with me, that says municipalities shall be required, not should consider, shall be required to accept as public use and public streets as public streets and roads if that street that is being turned over to them conforms to specifications for public roads. I can't imagine approving a development like that and not having it meet those kinds of standards. And then there's another one that's coming up that's supposed to be voted on in the next 2 weeks in the legislature, Assembly Bill number 4123, which requires, doesn't say should, requires MUAs to service, inspect, maintain, and repair fire hydrants and the water that services them, which in effect is the public mains. Now, there are 2 parts that I'm concerned about with all of this. One is the privacy issue, and even if you considered us private, it still says in the paperwork, serviced by public water and public sewers. And then there's the refusal of the MUA for some strange reason to accept all of this. But last week, I did this similar kind of presentation to the MUA, and they said, if the township tells us that when the streets are finally top-coated and they will take over the responsibility for the streets, then we will begin to service the mains even immediately right now, okay? And part of this was that 3 years ago, as I said, when we started talking about this with the MUA, we finally had a meeting with their attorney, and Randy Lafferty is their attorney, and he had to withdraw from it, so they appointed a special counsel to deal with this, and our attorney who developed what is called a Memorandum of Understanding, that until such time as the top coated is done, we were wondering, the issue is, well, what happens if, heaven forbid, there's a catastrophic failure in a sewer line or a water main? What do we do? And aside from the fact of what the MUA might say, we, as homeowners, want to be concerned. We want to make sure, A, it's fixed, and then B, how it's paid for. This memorandum of understanding said, until such time as the top coated is done, at which point they would recognize that it would become totally their responsibility, the MOU, or Memos of Understanding, said clearly, if something happened, and by the way, according to what I've heard, the odds are better that I would win the lottery than this would actually happen, but you have to plan for the what if, you never know. And the memo says they will come in, dig into the ground, find the leak or blow up, whatever it is, repair it, and then the homeowners association would pay for restoring the road back to where it is, okay? So it would be a kind of a shared responsibility. That was done a year and a half ago. It still hasn't been approved or acted on by the MUA. And we went this past week and said, it's time to make a decision on this. That's when they said to us, if the township tells us that when the roads are top coated, and that may be 2 or 3 years away, but the way the regulations are written, and once 90% of all the homes are sold, and we have 182 homes sold of what would ultimately be a planned development of perhaps 245 or so, and we have some 350 or so residents, seniors, voting seniors mostly, and we said, but let's work this thing out. I mean, somebody's got to say, somewhere along the line, yes, we'll take over responsibility when the roads are finally top coated, even if it may be 2 or 3 years away. But the flip side is, what do we do now if something happened? Is it going to happen? Probably not. But it's the what if it ever did happen. And then the MUA said to us, through Mr. Blankenship, who is their executive director, if the township says that they will take over the roads when it's top coated and finished, and they tell us that, then we will take over the responsibility now, and you won't need the memo of understanding. We assume it from the get-go, okay? So that's part of what the issue is. It has to do with whether it's private or not. That's a secondary issue. We're checking and flushing the hydrants and doing that, and then all of a sudden, they stopped doing it. So I think you've got a pretty good picture for our concern. Well, we are faced with, we never budgeted for a $100,000 repair or something, and had this been anticipated in the beginning, I'm sure that the builders and everyone else would have said, you better start putting a line item in budgets for this kind of thing. It wasn't done. So I want to turn this material over to you. I do not expect a decision tonight, but I'm asking you to please consider, this is what we would like to have. Something that says, yeah, when the roads are finally top coated, it may be 2 or 3 years before it's done, unless you turn to the builder and say, you must top coat it now. But at that point in time, once it's done, then the township, those roads would be dedicated. And the municipal act that I read and found says you must accept, not a choice, okay? So that's what I wanted to say, and it pretty much conforms what I talked with Phil about, but as he said, it's above his pay grade.
We appreciate you folks coming out tonight, and especially in this weather and everything.
Yeah,
That's why
a few of us here.
why I wanted to put you up first, so you didn't have to sit through the rest of the meeting. And I appreciate the information that you've brought, and we'll pass it on to our solicitor for review and the end committee. It sounds like you've certainly done your homework, and now we need to take a look at things and have our Phil Sartorio and our solicitor and all to put their heads together and come up with something here for you. It's been a long time, and we're really want to look at this and make sure that we get it right. Go ahead.
One important thing that's done is we know the hydrants are working, because we tested
Yeah.
them. We pay to have it done because we didn't want to have an incident like it happened elsewhere.
How long ago was that done?
I'm sorry?
The hydrant
last
testing?
testing was done this past spring.
Okay.
We do it every year. We want to be sure they're
Understood.
okay.
Mayor, I got a couple, Bob.
Yeah, go ahead.
Who drafted the initial memorandum of understanding?
The attorney who represented the MUA, her name was Anne-Marie Schreiber of a firm, I don't have the firm in front of
And
me.
of course, at that time, there was an agreement that this was going to take place once the drafting was done, and already they, in principle, had agreed to it.
Yes.
Without it being signed in writing, correct?
All it had to be was signed.
And as I understand what you said tonight, they don't even want to deal with that now.
It was developed a year and a half ago, and it's gone nowhere. That's what led us this past week to say, guys, could we have a decision?
No.
There is legislation, as you spoke about, that is in, I don't believe it's out of committee yet, so I really don't think it's going to get voted on before their session's over, but that's neither here nor there. The legislation was written, obviously, because they have a concern, as well as we all should, about the fire hydrants. There's other communities just like yours that fall under that criteria that may not be as affluent and be able to handle that kind of expense. So I think they're putting that onus back on the MUAs to make sure it gets done, so we don't have what happened in the fairways happen again. And I think the MUA stance at this point is to see where it goes with the legislation, and or put the onus on us to make the decision on whether we accept the roads. It seems as though the MUA should be able to make this decision without whether we accept the roads or not. In other words, you're absolutely right. Something could happen between now and then, and this is it's a little bit complicated. You have a lot of really good information there, which is something that, like John said, our attorneys and maybe even the planning board need to take a hard look at and advise us on what's the right direction to head with this. So there is definitely something there in my eyes that needs to be, looked at and quickly.
And I
It is
think, too,
interesting,
your
we put in that
comments-
memo of understanding that should the state legislation come along and change something, that supersedes whatever is in the memo of understanding, but at least for the time being, somebody has a decision on what to do if something happened.
You mentioned Steve Blankenship's comments about taking on responsibility if the township, is that in writing?
It was verbally done, and I'm sure it's in their minutes.
I believe
There were a
they
lot
have
of
to.
witnesses there, including the deputy
And, you know,
mayor.
there's a greater one. I mean, we talk about public safety all the time. Could be a public health issue here, too, if you have a break in the main, okay? And obviously, it has happened before, and I think good common sense should prevail on this, and hopefully, we'll get the direction from our attorney to how to lay this thing out and to make sure that things do occur the right way. I think we all want to see our communities protected, okay? Look at what you did with your Firewise program. Look at all the steps you've taken there to protect your community all the way around. I mean, and it's not only your subdivision, but it's all the neighborhoods. So there's a lot involved in this.
Yeah, we were considered by one of the state associations a Gold Star community. That's a pretty nice honor to get.
Sure it is.
And then our
Remember
board
that.
was named the best board in the state by the state association. Those are pretty good achievements.
Well, I was at your Firewise event,
Yes.
and it was a great event, and it's something needed at communities like that. But we'll take the information that you brought tonight, and we'll review this, and we'll try to get on this as quickly as possible, too. We don't want you to have to wait long for an answer of what's happening, so we'll try to take care of that. And we'll have, like I said, our solicitor, and even the planning board, if we have to, like Art said, take a look at this. But coming out tonight and information and letting us know that it's still an issue that we have to deal with.
Yes.
So we'll get together. Maybe we'll even have to work with the MUA as a result of this. We will have to. So let's see what we can do, and we'll pay attention to the information you left tonight and work on it. Evan, you'll
Understood.
understood. Okay.
We'll make it a
great.
priority.
And Phil will be on top of this
Done yet?
too.
Thank you, Evan.
Okay. Thank you for coming out, folks, in this weather tonight. We
Thank you.
appreciate you being here. Thank
And you're
you.
welcome to stay.
Yeah, it might be raining out
Or you can
there.
borrow my umbrella.
You got an umbrella?
Yep.
Did I dry up? No.
They had any,
About to have all this
You know
dry
what's
clean
disturbing
house.
about this? They were drafting an MUA, and understand.
No, it's not that
They were
it's
drafting
old, it's
in-
just
We'll
take a moment.
There was a confusion.
You know,
I don't know if it's
they just let it go. There's
There
no
was
reason
an
why it
original
could.
builder. That builder went bankrupt. There was
They do
another
it for the rest of the
slave
town.
with another builder, which, you know.
I have a
all
fire.
that
I don't know
stuff.
what kind of precedents that may or may not establish with regard to any other agreements.
They-
with the
Eventually, you may
township.
not have a choice in it. You know what I mean? The way the legislation's going.
I
if
think
they
that's the
sign.
reason for the
You
legislation.
mentioned it's a bill, though. Of course, the bill is not-
4123.
the bill is not the law.
Not, or, you know,
Yeah.
hey, listen, money's tight, we're not gonna do
State
the hybrids
mandate?
this year. No.
When are they going to start paying?
would they really
Uh,
come out?
Discussions, formal actions may be taken. Item A, proposed resolution establishing and adopting a Township of Hamilton Complete Streets policy. Before we go into this, I'd just like to read a couple notes that I've made. Some of this resolution is addressed in a neighborhood redevelopment plan, and other parts of this could also affect planning board applications. However, I do agree with the intent of this resolution. However, I believe that I would like to forward this to the planning board before we vote on it. I think it's something that the planning board has worked with in the past, and we would need to have some review from the planning board in order to make a decision on this. I want to thank Rodney for bringing it forward, and like I said, Rodney, have had an opportunity to look at this. So at this point, I would like to make a motion to have this presented to the planning board for review, and we won't be voting on it tonight.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second.
Yeah, I do have some comments on it.
Go ahead, Rodney.
And I don't have a
But you got to
problem.
vote, you got to go on the motion then first, and then are there any questions or comments?
Okay,
Well, this is
great.
discussion.
No, we just made a motion.
Well, this
Yeah,
is
we'll
discussion.
act on the motion. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
But this is discussion on
It's
the
a
motion.
discussion period. It's allowed.
Discussion period.
Plus, we just got this thing.
This, I have no problem with bringing this before the planning board. That's probably quite appropriate. But just
Absolutely.
by way of a little background, the Federal Highway Safety Administration is responsible for, most of the federal highway system, for establishing the rules, the laws for that system. But it was recognized a long time ago that they were very much automobile-oriented, and there wasn't much consideration given to other than automobiles. So back in 2010, a group of people, I think led by California folks in Berkeley, put together some guidelines, which they called Complete Streets. And that addressed not only the automobile, but it addressed pedestrians, bicyclists, and other people for other purposes, not just automobile purposes. So it wasn't made point, the intent was that it would be utilized around the country, but it didn't become part of any law or legal language until the FAST Act of 2015, which has fixed America's surface transportation, FAST. That was a $305 billion act, and that included language from Complete Streets. What it does, it just provides guidelines, and the way we've written this resolution, and by the way, it was put together by the Green Team in conjunction with the county, cross-county organization, which is funded by the federal government and serves the state. There's several of them that serve the state. It is a set of this is only a two-page document. It's not mandatory. It's a set of its guidelines, and it asks that the Complete Streets considerations be made when fixing roads, renovating roads, or establishing new streets. It's been adopted by over 1,200 communities around the country, and there's a lot of engineering and thought that went into it. It is not binding. There are all kinds of exceptions for its use or non-use, but it's a good document, and I think it's consistent with our good planning that it would be a good idea to adopt it. So as I'm fine with going before the planning board.
And again, Rodney, I did read the whole resolution, and I do agree it's a good document. However, sitting on the planning board and being part of the neighborhood redevelopment plan, I had an opportunity to read through those different things that come before both the planning board and the redevelopment plan. The redevelopment plan had a specific section that dealt with bike paths and other items that could be done to enhance the community. And at a planning board level, I just would want to make sure that the planning board put eyes on it to see if there was any conflict at all that they had with it that we might need to discuss further. But I understand it's a recommendation.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. And keep in mind that for any applications that we go for, any grant applications, one of the considerations for that is whether or not we've adopted a complete streets policy.
I can
and
understand
that helps toward getting grants, so it's worth considering.
Yeah.
Okay, understood. Well, we have a motion on the floor to send this to the planning board for review, and we have a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
B, resolution supporting Freeholder Gatto's proposed amendments to the county code in Chapter 97. What I'd like to do is, Evan, I know you have some new information on this. Did you want to present that now? Amy Gatto is here, our freeholder, and she wanted to speak on this. Is that something that you, which?
I think perhaps if Amy goes first. And
Yeah, sure. Amy, could you come up and?
Good evening, guys. Thank you so much for putting this on the agenda for your consideration. Just to give a little bit of background on the amendments that are proposed. We recently, in discussions with the Mays Landing Merchants Association, had someone come to us who is very interested in bringing some more events to Lake Lenape Park on both sides of the park, east and west. And things like festivals, things like that, and he would certainly be very open to coming in and addressing the Township Committee with some things that he has in mind. But in order for him to do those events, he asked if we would consider some ordinance amendments that have to do with alcohol usage at the parks. So his suggestion was, to make his types of events successful. He would like to have the opportunity to potentially sell alcohol at events or do expanded tastings outside of just a wine tasting event, which is the only thing approved that is kind of a major event right now at Lake Lenape Park, which is the South Jersey Wine and Food Festival. So I worked with county administration to consider some options on how we might be able to make this happen so that, we can have people coming in doing more events at Lake Lenape Park. So what we did was essentially took the language that applied to the wine festival that's in the ordinance and the language that applied to the use of the catering hall when someone wants to use alcohol at the catering hall. And we basically expanded that language to apply to the entire Lake Lenape Park East and West. So basically, if somebody wanted to come in and have alcohol, they would follow those standards, whether they were in the catering hall or outside of the catering hall. So we worked with county administration, worked with the county legal department. Jim Ferguson drafted the ordinance amendments. The county freeholder board has indicated that they are open and receptive to the amendments and have sent it to our code committee to be reviewed before introduction to the full freeholder board and public for public comment. But in addition to that, they asked that the township, of course, be in the loop, and that we make sure that the township would be in favor and in support of an expanded type use like that at the park, because it is in our hometown. So that's why I'm here and proposing the amendments that are in front of you.
And basically, this is just a resolution of support.
A resolution of support.
We've had, lately, we've had the county contact us, Roger, and maybe even Art too, on asking for resolutions of support on some things that the county really could have made a decision on themselves, we find, like a
Okay.
birthday party over at the catering hall, but they wanted our support that we could have it because they were serving alcohol for a couple hours or minimum 2 drinks or something like that.
Okay.
And I just felt at that point, this is different, but is this something new with the county, that coming back to us for these resolutions of support for anything that it goes on in the township?
Bless you,
Bless
Judy.
you.
I wasn't
Particularly
aware.
at county property.
I wasn't even
county-owned
aware that was
property.
happening, so I'm not exactly sure where that's coming from, other
Yeah.
than, I mean, I would assume potentially maybe there was an issue or a complaint somewhere, and
Yeah,
now they're trying to
maybe.
cover their butts, which is typically why, somebody asks
Yeah.
and come and ask for permission. So I can certainly follow up on that and figure out what's happening with that.
But I am familiar with this. I also know the company you're speaking of, and they produce such events like the Seafood Festival in Atlantic City, huge, huge events. And the thought that someone like that would be working to try to bring events like that to our township is good.
Yeah.
But I think we have some additional concerns, and I'm going to ask Evan to maybe address them now.
I have a couple.
And I have a question
Go ahead,
also.
a couple concerns.
Can we all know who the vendor is?
Sure, it's John Henderson, it's Good Time Tricycle, is
does
his
the
company.
Beer Fest in Atlantic
He does the
City.
Beer Fest, he does
Big
AC,
events.
Seafood Fest.
Was that tricycle?
Good Time Tricycle, that's the name of his company, yes. He's a very interesting individual.
So we have the
And by the
wine-
way, he's a resident of Mays Landing. So, go ahead.
We have the wine festival now. What other events is he looking to do?
Well, he's not involved per se with the wine festival. He's looking to bring different types of festivals. So he's interested in doing beer tastings potentially. He's actually doing a Gilda's Club fundraiser at the park in July for boat races, I believe. And there won't be alcohol at that event, obviously. But I believe last year he raised like $150,000 just from the attendance of an event like that. So he's bringing that event here from Atlantic City. It was held in Atlantic City last year, and he liked our location better for the event this year. He's got a lot of other very creative ideas. Another one that he has is what he calls a walk in the woods, which he would like to have kind of like a dramatic walk through the camping area on the other side, where you would be able to stop at different campsites, potentially do a beer tasting, and as you're walking, there is things coming out of the woods to entertain you. He's got very interesting, out-of-the-box ideas, very attractive, very interested in using the resources that we have, the natural resources, such as the beach, the campsites, even potentially the lake, and he feels that there's a lot of really good opportunity here instead of Atlantic City for some things.
If I may,
Go ahead.
That sounds very exciting.
Yeah,
And
it is.
when I think back of the Lake Lenape Park and the way it's been used, I can recall 10, 15, 20 years ago, they used to serve beer. The NAFIC Association, among others, would have big events over there, and they were very, very good, very, very fun. But when that park was taken over by the county, and I understand by Green Acres, there's a 50-50 ownership on that? Is that?
I'm not
or a-
aware of Green Acres ownership. I
There's
believe
Green
the
Acres money in it.
Yeah,
Well, I
the-
believe the
Acres-
park was renovated with open space money.
Open space money.
right,
I'm
well-
not sure about Green Acres.
They bought it
my-
for $4 million, and $2 million came from Green Acres.
Okay.
My question is, as you look as you go into the park, there's a big sign there saying no alcohol.
Correct.
And I believe that's in part due to Green Acres regulations. Now, maybe Evan is going to speak to this. Maybe not. But I just wanted to make sure that we are in compliance with, whatever.
Well,
those
County Council didn't
requirements
raise that as an issue, and they're very aware of the ownership, aspect. It's certainly a concern I can bring back to see if that base needs to be covered, but it wasn't raised
Okay.
as a question or an issue.
And the county changed the ordinance to allow the
Correct.
tasting of wine at the park. They changed the ordinance already to allow that when we first developed the Americans
Exactly.
Association developed the wine festival.
Exactly, right.
That ordinance was changed.
Right, and so, like I said, what we're trying to do is expand the ordinance to enable additional special events to be able to have alcohol, and not necessarily for everyday use and public to be able to come in and bring alcohol and think. It would be very regulated, obviously the ABC would be involved. There's a lot of really stringent guidelines that anybody coming in, even now, to use the catering hall and have alcohol would have to follow. So again, we're just expanding that to the rest of the park.
I have a question about the swimming area. They've never addressed that, issue. The swimming area can be very, attractive to people who are drinking. And if nobody is there to guard that swimming area, that could be a great liability.
Well, the liability would, so anybody who rents, right now, let's say the catering hall, or the Mays Landing Merchants Association who rents the park for the purpose of the wine festival, again, there are very stringent guidelines that groups have to adhere to in terms of having trained resources who are monitoring who is receiving the alcohol, and kind of having the liability risk and the security aspect of patrolling, I guess, an event like that. So I don't see how that would change, because again, we're using the exact same language, expanding it to the outside as well as the inside.
But if we were to give an approval of a resolution, would we then too be culpable when people are suing for certain things? They just go right down the line and sue whoever is somewhat responsible.
Well, you give support today for the wine festival, and I mean, so I don't know if you would be culpable on an event like that because you support it annually. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I can't answer those questions. But again, there are guidelines for anybody renting and using with alcohol that covers the liability risk. So I would think that if you're in support of a resolution of the amendments, where the amendments state those assurances, then I would think you would be somewhat covered, but again, I'm not a lawyer, so.
And also the ABC is involved majorly in
Correct.
that. I've filled out those applications for the Wine Fest for the ABC, and it's very strict. They have a lot of hoops you have to jump through before you can even get that permit.
Exactly.
So I would think that would be another safety step on that, too.
And it spells it out in
The
here,
other
where it
thing that,
mitigates
I
the
wanted
risk
to
of any
bring up-
additional liability to the county or municipality.
Right, that was one of my main objectives with proposing the ordinance amendments, was that by proposing this, we weren't adding any additional risk or liability to the county, whose ordinance that it is. And upon Mr. Ferguson's review, he believes the amendments in there do not add any additional liability and mitigates any existing liability.
Amy, have you reached out to any of the neighbors for their approval?
I have not.
How many events do you have any idea what we're talking about here? I mean, right now, there's a few events out there during the course of a year. If you
I
have
don't
the-
know. He's mentioned things like a concert series in the summer, next summer.
This is all for profit, right? Okay.
I don't want to say that. I don't know, because again, he does a lot of events for charity, so I can't say if they're all for profit or not.
Like Gilda's Club is a charity.
Yeah.
Gilda's Club is a charity that is benefiting from his July event, correct? And remember, these ordinance amendments, although they're instigated by this gentleman because he has the desire to bring events to Mays Landing, they would apply to anyone that would come and have an interest in bringing an event to the park.
Do we have, I thought I read somewhere in here that it has to go through the township and the police department for approvals for any
No,
of these
we,
events?
as the county, wanted to get a resolution of support from the township and from the chief of police for the ordinance amendments that are being proposed before we act on making the amendments.
My question is, does the chief of police in our town, can he say no to any of these events?
Well,
Various reasons.
from a special events perspective, I'm not exactly sure of the process for
They have
anybody
to have
who,
permits from the township in order to have events out there, or
I don't know.
no?
The only thing that comes through me would be an ABC application.
Right.
Everything else through county property is handled by the county.
So how do we know when we have one of these special events that they're going to, I mean, you know, the one year the wine festival got really big. Nobody really knew it was going to get that big, and it caused a lot of problems. We were understaffed in the police department. We had traffic issues all over town. If the police department's not involved in at least planning for this, how do we know that
Well,
events are going to be handled in that manner?
so the chief just stated that he does see ABC applications. So anybody who would be renting the park with a desire to have alcohol would have to fill out an ABC application,
Right.
which is all stipulated in the guidelines.
Right.
So I'm assuming then you would then
It would go through the police department.
know.
Yeah, come on up, chief.
See, the thing is, they can't.
With regard to the ABC application, what it really is limited to is what goes on inside the event itself. What type of security do they have? They have people checking IDs. Who are the individuals that are actually going to be serving the alcohol, all that sort of thing. What it doesn't really cover is what goes on outside the event. Traffic impacts, parking, those types of things. So it's really focused specifically on the alcohol aspect of it.
And it's because it's not a township property per se that we would be filling out a special events
Correct.
application, in which case you then would be involved. So, I think that is probably something for the townships to look at as a policy consideration in conjunction with the county. So if somebody is applying for use of Lake Lenape Park, then maybe your policy would be you have to see all applications and it has to go through our same special event process.
I just think we should be able to have input on the plan.
I'm not disagreeing with
The
you.
Merchants Association with the Wine Festival, they have worked with the police department, and over the years, like I said, the one year it got we had some problems, but it wasn't intentional. But then the following year, they addressed all that.
Mm-hmm.
So they do it because most of them live here.
Right.
When you have somebody coming in, especially somebody's here to make money,
Who lives here?
they may that's neither here nor there. Amy.
Okay.
Somebody's coming in here to put on they're going to try and do it in order to make money. Doesn't necessarily mean it's this gentleman you're speaking of. It
Right.
could be anybody. Once you pass this, it opens the door to anybody.
Right. To bring
And
activity
if we don't
to-
have some kind of say,
And I don't disagree with you on having the say, but I don't think it has anything to do with the ordinance amendments that I'm proposing.
The township does have a say, though, don't we? We would have to approve an application to use
That's
that,
what I'm asking.
wouldn't we?
No,
I'm
I
not
don't
talking about the
believe.
police department per se, I'm talking about the township.
No,
We're
I
saying the
don't believe
township
so.
would not have to approve
For
it.
the booze,
I don't believe I don't know if the township is involved in every single Lake Lenape special event request for use application. I have no idea.
Well, that's probably
The
something
answer
we
to that
should
question
find
is
out.
yes, you are.
You are.
As the ordinance is currently written and as unchanged, this portion, currently every application for an alcohol use in the park has to come before the township. How that happens, I think, is problematic for us, but that does currently happen and will continue to happen.
So is that the ABC process that the chief was mentioning?
Correct. Now,
Okay.
the county's ordinance reads, in order to get a permission from the county, one of the things that is required is the applicant must submit their application, quote, accompanied by written approval for the proposed event by the municipal police chief and the municipal clerk in accordance with NJABC requirements. So as long as those requirements stay in effect, we'll continue to have a say. Now, my understanding is that may not be the case, and at some point, the application process, as required by NJABC, may change, and we will no longer have a say.
But that's not because of my ordinance amendment.
That is not because of your
Okay,
ordinance,
I
and
just
that's
want to be
not
clear.
controlled by the county. But that may happen at some point.
Let's take it a step further. the catering hall there. All right? Someone wants to have a wedding reception there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They have to go through the same process, correct? To get alcohol served?
Correct.
Correct, right?
Yes.
And
Sorry.
who would be responsible for the catering hall? That's the county, right?
Yes, there's very stringent guidelines about requesting use of alcohol at the catering hall, which is what is echoed in the amendments.
I think initially, wasn't it the goal of the county when they did the renovations there to have something like that there?
I believe it was.
To expand, because at one time they used to, well, before the county had it, they used to do stuff there like that.
I can remember a certain Mayor Pritchard who got married there,
Oh,
because I was at his wedding there. Yes.
it's a landmark
But that was
facility.
privately owned.
I know, Judy. I'm just. So,
Counselor,
I would like to see something from Green Acres approving of this amendment that the county did. It was a very, very, very adamant when the deal was made to sell it to the county. I'd like to see something in writing from Green Acres.
okay.
In Green Acres to what? To allow what?
To the county, to allow, what is their policy regarding, because they put up $2 million. The county put up $2 million. There is a partnership there.
Right, so.
So if this is to go forward, and like our Wine Fest and stuff like that, what is Green Acres saying?
Well, they had no objection to the ordinance being changed to allow the wine festival to be
Okay,
there.
so they had no objection, did they put that in writing?
I would believe so, or they couldn't have changed the ordinance. It's a county ordinance.
Were they part of the
I
process?
didn't see it in any of the ordinance there.
Were they part of the process for
Yes.
Green Acres?
Yeah.
Well, then there shouldn't be a problem then. We, to check with them and make sure that,
I'm not saying it is a problem.
yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, that is for instance, that park really is open to anybody, anytime from
24 hours a day.
sunrise to sunset. Even if someone such as the Seafood Festival comes in, they don't really have the right to charge them for that.
Okay.
No, they're not renting that, they're renting part
I don't want to
of it,
get
but
into
they're not
semantics, but I
renting.
do believe they are applying for use of the facility, so, but I don't want to get into semantics there. It's a whole nother issue. I don't think it has to do with
No,
my
I don't think so, Amy.
amendments.
Because even when they had the wine and food festival, the people who didn't want to take part of the wine and food festival had the right to go in there without being charged.
Okay.
So, there are a lot of things that have to be ironed out here. I'd like to see the Green Acres approval. I'd like to see a document that says this is, something that the Green Acres approves. Because now anyone who goes into that park, can't they take an ice chest full of wine and,
Not under my proposed amendments.
okay.
It's only for special events that are applied for and adhere to the process that's outlined.
But then it begs the question, why can they and not us?
What do you mean?
Why can this special event take place and have wine and beer and,
Because they're paying a use fee, they're going through the process, they're taking appropriate precautions to prevent issues.
okay, so then everybody who wants to go use that park can go over there and, to West and make application for it, right?
Anybody can go make application for it today.
Sure.
All I'm saying,
Application, but are they going to put up the liability and,
they have to today.
That's part of the process.
Today, if anybody wants to use it, there is a whole process that is a
Well,
whole
see,
special events rental use of facility process.
I do
All
not-
I'm saying is the amendments say to expand the ability to have alcohol at an event and the guidelines and regulations to follow should you want to do that. That is the amendment. That is it.
I think it opens up a whole,
Okay, well, if you don't want additional events to come in, that's fine.
well, you know,
I think the county had the ability, and I'm saying it's a good thing to ask us for a resolution of support.
Absolutely.
It shows the partnership.
I
and
thought it was important, that's why I'm
The
here.
fact that they're respecting their position in our community. And, as far as people coming in, it's a gated entrance there, and they can observe people coming in and out, and generally, I think they do. As far as the resolution being it's looking for a resolution of support. I mean, I don't have any problem with the way it is. I don't.
And other organizations ask for a resolution of support from the township to have an event at the county park. The county asks that be part of the package, that they have a resolution of support from the township.
I don't have an objection to all these different things. After all, they had, you know, a ton of things happening at the park before it was sold. But my question is, again, I'm going back to Green Acres, because Green Acres are very adamant at not allowing any alcoholic beverages in their park. So if they agree to these exceptions, then that's it.
Okay,
But
and I already said I'll take that back.
For $2 million as part of that, you know, they put down $2 million, Atlanta County put down $2 million. I'd like to see in writing the approval by Green Acres. That's all I'm saying. And if they do, that's great. Then we can have one festival after another. I know there's a lot of people who would like to do this.
I think that's more the county's concern than our concern, because the Green Acres, if they have issue with it, could come in and say, you can't do this. This ordinance is no.
Yeah, but I'll certainly take it as a follow-up. It's a good
Amy,
question.
can I ask for this? And my only concern, and we all, you know, this is great. I think it's great. Bring in events, but we also want to have some type of mechanism that we can control it a little bit more than just the ABC process. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm sure the county will vet these people as well as we would. But I think it's important for the township to be able to say, okay, no, for whatever the reason, whether it's become a problem. I'm just afraid that we're going to have 40, 50 people in here one night complaining about whatever it is that they want to complain about, having to do with events that are held out there. Right now, and I don't know how many events are out there, but there's not that many big events, not like the wine festival.
Right, not big ones.
If we get into this, there may be a lot more.
There could be.
And that could be problem with some of the residents or people that don't live so close by. So I just feel as though that if we could take the wording that was there for the ABC and maybe take us, not only have approval for that, but also have approval for the event in general as far as the parking and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, the county's probably going to do all this, but it would be nice if we could make sure that it's there, and if it's not there, we can, I hate to use the word stop it, but put in our 2 cents and say, hey, look, this is
Okay.
what we've had problems with in the past. We really need you to do this, or we're not going to approve it.
Okay, so do you want that to apply to only events where they're applying to have alcohol, or for any type of festival? Or any event, because I
guess it
don't
would be
know
any
right
event,
now
'cause
that,
the ABC part of it kind of covers the alcohol, but I guess, yeah.
because
What I'm
I think
afraid
that
of
would be
is-
a whole nother nature of change.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm afraid that the more events you bring in here, because the wording is that it's allowing more events, is what it's doing.
Sure.
And it's
That was the
allowing more
idea, was
events
to,
that,
you
yeah.
know,
and I
activity
agree with
breeds activity, bring more people to
Not
town.
against that.
Yeah,
I'm not against that. What I'm against is that we need to be able to have some kind of say.
okay.
I don't have any problems with the events. I think it's a good idea. I just want us to be able to say yes or no.
And I think, don't they respect the interaction with the Merchants Association?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a no-brainer when it comes to that, because I think you've got a good group of people there that have been very well vetted and putting on shows. And I think back to when we had, remember our 200th anniversary? And we couldn't handle it ourselves, Amy? And we went to the merchants and we partnered with them, and look what happened as a result.
Yep.
It was a fantastic event, and many, many people attended, and over the years, it's been very successful using that park.
Yep.
And I think, and I'm not defending or criticizing the county, but the county made a major investment in there with the upgrades, and they would like to see it utilized, just as they
Absolutely.
would the other side of the park where they paved all the way into the campsite.
Exactly.
So I think a lot of that 1,800 acres on that side, they want to make sure that they get the use of it, and people know about it. There's a lot of people that don't know about it.
You are exactly right.
And I think we've all experienced the thing that when you've been at the wine festival, how many people say, this is wonderful, I didn't even know the town had this.
Yep.
They've come from outlying areas and they like coming to it. And you're right, it's another venue than Atlantic City.
Right.
And I think we've all been looking to bring things back into the communities, okay, and keeping it local here, without criticizing Atlantic City.
Yeah.
So,
I'd just like to offer support to Art's idea that the township have some level of control in this. Roger mentioned the excellent relationship with the Merchants Association. Well, that's the Merchant Association. We don't know what associations we're going to be dealing with the park. I hope they work out anywhere near as well.
I'd
But
like to
I
think
do
we have a good working relationship with the county, too, and if we don't, then
Well,
need
it's
to know that,
it's the
too.
organizations that come over here, not the county necessarily. So I would like to see some ability to object with good reason or whatever.
Okay,
but
but I don't
I'm-
think I got the question answered, so I think the answer is, so you want to have the ability to have a say in every single use application for Lake Lenape Park?
I wouldn't go that far myself, because we've been doing
Alcoholic
okay.
events.
But, yeah,
Okay,
They're the ones that has the potential to be out of control.
okay.
handle it day in and day out. They
Could I
have,
say something here as well? Parking is a very big issue. The firemen have, done quite a bit by having a donation to the fire department. But they make sure, for instance, I am adjacent to the parking at Lenape Park. I have a specific area that is mine. And for instance, the people who come in there will park there so they don't have to walk a great distance. And so we have something out there monitoring who is parking in our parking lot. And if it is not our customers, we're going to ask them to leave. And this happens with the crew races. They're always very respectful of our parking area. Also, with the different police, fire departments like Laureldale, Mays Landing, they're very respectful of the parking. So my suggestion would be to at least have someone of that nature doing the parking, or and there's really no cost to the parking. It should be a donation. Now, someone who comes in here, like the Seafood Festival, might say, oh, I bought the whole park. I can charge for, the,
So I think we're getting into a whole nother ball of wax.
okay, so there's a lot of, restrictions that, or considerations.
So I
let's
think
say.
there's a couple of issues. So one, again, my amendments that are proposed are strictly to expand the allowable use of alcohol for special events at the park. It sounds like there are some issues with events that are at the park. Number one, having the township having an approval or review process of that. And I think a review process of that would include something like the parking plan if we follow the special events process that we have here in the township. So I think that would address your concern. I don't necessarily think we can build in, I don't know if we want to build into an ordinance that we mandate who has to do what parking, you know, and I don't know if we want to put that onus on our fire departments without even talking to them. So
Well, they always
I
do.
think it's two separate issues. So we have the amendments that are proposed, and then it sounds like we have to handle some issues in terms of the collaboration between the county and the township and the use of the park and how that use looks from a special event perspective. So we have that we need to resolve, and then get your Green Acres stuff in writing. So we'll have those two takeaways. On the township county interaction side, I would ask you guys to tell me what you want in writing and send it back, and then I'll handle it from the county end. I will handle getting the Green Acres piece.
I have additional comments. Sorry to
Yes, please,
drag
go
this
ahead,
on.
Ed.
So a couple of things in reading this, a few small things, and then there are some major issues I have. Amy, I know you didn't draft it, so sorry it's not targeted at you. It's just some of the stuff that's in here.
I had a heavy hand in the drafting, so I will probably
sorry.
take offense. That's okay.
First, although the whereas clauses in the county's draft ordinance reference beer and wine, it's not limited in the actual ordinance. So we are talking beer and wine and hard liquor, which I think just the committee should be aware of. I don't have any personal policy
Is that
perspective
the-
on that. It's not my business, but it applies to all three. It's not just beer and wine.
Should probably say that.
Amy?
The intent was the expanded use of alcohol,
Any kind of alcohol?
any kind of alcohol.
Right now, the way the approval process is actually working and how it's called for in the current and planned amended ordinance is that the applicants are seeking approval from the township, from the clerk, and from the police department before the county has actually approved any application. It's problematic from a legal perspective because the county is technically the owner and they're supposed to be part of the application process. It's also placing a burden on the township to approve something that may never happen. It may never receive county approval. So they're sort of asking us to do legwork and make some determinations about how we feel and how this governing body feels about a particular event before the county has even said, we're going to approve this if you approve it. So that's important. As I mentioned before, the ABC process may not stay the way it is. My understanding is it may move to a faster online process that will actually cut the municipality out entirely, at which point we lose, as it stands right now, any approval.
Is this something in the making?
That's
That
my
change?
understanding. I haven't done this is secondhand, and I haven't done a lot of research on it, but that's my
If we
understanding.
put a little, another line in there that brings us to a approval process.
My immediate thought is that in a legal battle between the county and the municipality, whether we can force the county to have their site subject to our rules and regulations, my guess is at least the county can voluntarily allow our special
Yeah, I'm not.
events thing to apply. So we can figure something out in that regard. The two largest issues are, I frankly, in reading these, don't think they accomplish what the county thinks they accomplish. And it's a little technical, but I'll go through it just so you're aware. And based on this, it's my recommendation, at least, that we don't approve this resolution until it actually accomplishes what it's said to accomplish. Right now, alcohol can be used in the park in two circumstances under the county code. It can be used in connection to the use of the catering hall, and it can be used in other specified areas in Lenape Park East with the permission. And there's a process needed for permission. Those are the only two circumstances. There's no other way right now to use alcohol in the park. Basically, what the ordinance does, or the suggested ordinance does, is add the phrase special events to these two specified use areas. So it says now, effectively, the catering hall and other sections of Lenape Park East and West for wine tasting and other special events, and simply in the catering hall for the use of that catering hall in the other areas for special events. The problem is those two uses are governed by other sections of the county code. There's a county code section that deals with the catering hall, and there's a county code section that deals with wine tastings. And those haven't been amended enough to actually change the required process. So the wine tasting section still addresses wine tasting. For example, when you go into the county and ask for a permit for a wine tasting, and now what will be, as changed, a wine tasting or special event, you still have to address, you still have to show that your permit will be duly authorized and you will be able to perform the tasks and requirements necessary to conduct the proposed wine tasting event. You have to get an ABC permit for a proposed wine tasting event. None of that's been removed from the ordinance. So if you're going in for a boat race at which you want to serve alcohol, you still have to meet these requirements for a wine tasting event, and you never will. The full conduct of what someone has to demonstrate when they come in for an application still relates back to a wine tasting event.
And I think that should have been, because we did have a discussion. I asked if there was any other sections that needed to be amended as a result of these, and their review was no. So they should be. So I'm glad that you're pointing that out, because like I said, that there was discussion about that, so maybe it was just an oversight or something.
And the same on the catering hall. There's a
Yeah.
section that allows alcohol use in connection with the catering hall. And that's been expanded to include other areas of the park. When you cross-reference with the section of the code that relates to the catering hall itself, none of that's been adjusted to account for its application to non-hall events.
Okay.
So you'd still have to comply with all
Because
the
we did look at both of those sections, so, okay.
And that's my reading, and maybe the
Yeah.
county council disagrees, and I'd be happy to discuss it with them.
Yeah. No, I think it may be just an oversight, but we
But
did
those are my
specifically
big
talk about
concerns.
it.
So right now, I don't think it does what it thinks it does, and we may just end up with confused applicants who are coming with us, to us for questions about what's required from us and what's required from the county, and I don't think it's going to be an effective way to bring new events here.
Evan,
as
is
it
there
currently
any,
stands.
is there any circumstance or events that the county would have to do the approval process for liquor or alcohol? In other
As we
words,
sit here today?
The HBC, does they restrict it specifically to the community in which it's being held
For ABC purposes.
for ABC purposes? But the
So
point that
we-
you're making is if we didn't have an approval process through the clerk and through the police department and checking, what's their other option then?
In terms of the county's third option?
Yeah, the county has no other option, do they?
Yeah, but that's the way it is right now.
Yeah, the way it
That
is
can
now. Is it
change.
going to be changed?
Well, that's something
ABC
we,
process.
that I can't answer because I don't work at the
Yes.
ABC.
Well-
My understanding is at some point they do anticipate it changing. I can't account for when that will occur or if it will certainly occur, but it may.
If I'm correct, Rita and I had discussed this, I believe they are doing that in some places already, that process.
What they're doing right now is they're encouraging, and it may soon be mandatory, that the group has to apply online.
Right.
When they apply online, the applicant is certifying that they got approval of the owner. But right now, I'm getting a piece of paper, and I can look and see that
Yes,
the owner did
I'm
not
familiar
approve
with
it.
that, yeah.
And the fact that the county, they don't want to approve it until we approve it first, and that's when we can't approve it till they approve it.
It has to be signed by the county to say they allow us to use that property. It has to be signed by the chief.
Talking about the
It
wine
has a whole bunch
festival.
of signatures on it that
Right.
have to be done first. But if it's done online, Rita's correct.
They might be
they're gonna
able to
just a
skip that
testing.
process. And right now, I
Circumvent
put
that
it before
process.
the governing body for, it's on the consent agenda, so you always see the application. They're going to fast track it so that if we don't deny it within 7 days,
It
it'll
gets-
automatically be an approval. But I did call ABC, and they said if I call up there and tell them we don't have a meeting in that time, they will hold back on approving it. I don't know that I will always have that ability, because someone could come with an event and they're going to miss out on the event because we don't have a meeting. So I don't know what's going to happen in the future.
But if we apply the township process for special event review, that has to be applied for 45 days before the event anyway, correct?
Well, yeah, right now, special events is just when it's on our property.
I know, but I'm saying if we add
If we
that
added that,
stipulation in.
Or the chief, I know, has information on, there is another ordinance for festivals that is different than our special event ordinance.
And that's at 1,000 people.
1,000 people or more, you come under a different ordinance,
Mm-hmm.
which is exactly what I believe committee was speaking of.
Okay.
So can I ask you this, Amy? Our solicitor seems to have some concerns, and I don't think there's anything that he's bringing up that is, we're going to go to war
Catastrophic.
over this. Is it possible for our solicitor and the county solicitors to sit together and because ultimately, we're going to have some responsibility here,
Sure.
whether, it's the county property or not.
If you're injecting yourself in the approval process, you're absolutely going to have some
Well, if we're
responsibility.
going to be liable for it, we should be. Because there's things that are going to happen outside of that park that are going to be in direct connection to what happened inside that park, and we're in.
Evan, I just had a question. Already done? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I would, seeing the way that this has been discussed tonight, I probably am leaning towards not doing a vote, but tabling this item until you have a chance to discuss this further, and Amy has a chance to take it back to the county, and maybe, like Art suggested, the two get together. So I don't think...
Evan, you can feel free to call Jim Ferguson. Okay.
I think we're just a couple items away from cleaning it up, and
Yeah.
I think
I don't
so,
have
too.
a problem with it. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I would certainly like to see is that the resulting process not be confusing and not contradict other things we have here. So if we could just look at all the applicable documents and make sure they're clear and not confusing, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, agree. Okay.
Okay, well then, it sounds like I'd like to go ahead and make that motion that we table this resolution based upon further discussion between our solicitor and the county, and try to work out these minor details, I think, until we come up with an agreement that we can, that is good fair to all concerned.
Sure.
Second.
Okay?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
Motion is
Amy,
tabled.
thank you so
Thank you,
much.
guys.
Yes, thank you.
Coming out tonight. I
problem.
appreciate it, yeah.
And if I can just say, I was at the luncheon today for the Municipal Alliance, and we should be very proud as a municipality. Lisa's not here. I don't know if everybody knows Lisa, but her passion for the topic is it's unprecedented, and she really does deserve the recognition, because I remember when she came to us and said, I got people, can we keep it going a little bit more? And here we are getting an award now,
Yeah,
so
yeah, and we
it's
made
really
the
an amazing
appointments
thing.
necessary for that to
Yeah.
continue, yeah,
Yeah, so-
absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Cindy, I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Okay, C, authorizing the tax collector to prepare and mail estimated tax bills for the third quarter 2017. Mike, could you shed some light on this?
Yes, sir, Mayor. We were notified by the county tax assessor, Marge Schott, I'm sorry, I pronounced that wrong, that because of some things with the Borgata and their refund settlement, that the certification for municipalities could be late, the tax certification. So she's recommending that we use estimated tax bills. So I don't see how we can avoid it. We can't, if it's going to be delayed 2 or 3 weeks, it wouldn't be a big deal, but to not know what it is, I think we need to move forward.
As long
with
as,
estimated
Michael,
tax bills.
I don't want to pay for 2 mailings on this. As long as, after we mail it out in an estimate, they come out with a rate. Because from what I hear from some of them, we'll have a rate shortly.
Well, that wouldn't surprise me, but.
No, that's what I
know
mean.
she
Why should
told
we
us
pay
in
for
writing.
2 mailings? I mean, we just don't have the kind of money to throw away.
Well, except
But
we're
I
not-
agree with you. Something has to get out there, because
Oh, yeah, we
otherwise-
have to mail something out, absolutely.
And if they've given you assurances,
Well, we got it in writing from her that she's recommending we do estimated tax bills.
Well, I'm, just so I understand, how can we avoid going out twice if we send out an estimated tax bill?
no, I'm just saying, the point that I made was, we'll send out the estimated tax bill, and it'll probably come out with a rate in a week or 2 afterwards. And I said, why should we send it out if we could have waited? But they have no way of
He
telling
has
you.
no way,
don't know.
right. He doesn't know when it's going to come out.
Yeah.
Mike, how long can we wait before this becomes a problem?
By law, they're supposed to be out by June 30th. So there's really not much, it's almost as quickly as we can do
So
it.
we have to approve this meeting.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
We're
would
going to
think so.
jail.
You're definitely going
No, you're just not,
Have to
you're
cancel
not
some
approving
purchases.
anything that we're going to make an expenditure on.
Yeah, cancel purchases.
Don't spend any money.
All right, so if we don't approve this, all of number 5 is gone?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Good thinking. That's right. Good point. That makes it easy. That's why they're back there.
Committee, what's your pleasure on this?
I move that we pass the resolution authorizing
Second.
the tax collector to prepare and mail estimated tax bills.
We have a motion and second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Awards of bids and contracts and change orders. A, resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 Dodge Chargers from Bear for a total of $55,009.50.
Or 4A. How about 4A?
Oh, I'm sorry, 4A. I made a mistake here. Sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah, ordinance 1850-2017, an ordinance establishing speed limits for the entire length of Grand Avenue, and this is, we're going to have a public hearing on these on July 3rd, 2017. So this would be, we would need a motion to introduce.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Item B, ordinance 1851-2017, an ordinance establishing speed limits for the entire length of Township Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes. Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and introduced.
Now 5, awards of bids, contracts, and change orders. Resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 Dodge Chargers from Bear for a total of $55,009.50 from the Cranford Cooperative, number 47 CPCPS, item number 8.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
B, resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 Ford Interceptors SUVs from Bear for a total of $58,147.50 from the Cranford Cooperative, number 47 CPCPS, item 2.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
C, resolution authorizing the purchase of 1 Ford F-150 from Winter for a total of $29,880 under state contract A88728.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva? And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
D, resolution authorizing uplifting of 2 Dodge Chargers from Major Police Supply for a total of $19,144.46 under state contract A81330.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Mention of lifting, yeah.
E, resolution authorizing the upfitting of 2 Ford Police Interceptor SUV for a total of $22,443.94 from Major Police Supply under state contract A81330.
Yes.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
F, resolution authorizing the upfitting of 1 Ford F-150 pickup truck for a total of $10,172.15 from Major Police Supply under state contract A81330.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva? And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
G, resolution authorizing purchase of a TC06 Enforcer pumper from the Houston Galveston Area Council National Cooperative. Purchasing agreement not to exceed $688,186.31.
So moved.
Second.
And this is for the Laureldale fire truck. We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
H, resolution accepting the proposal of Warner's Construction to install a new epoxy floor system in the Public Works facility. Cost not to exceed $22,550.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva? And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
I, resolution authorizing the purchase of an Interceptor utility vehicle from Winter Ford Fleet Sales under contract number 88728 in the amount of $27,716. Fire Department.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion and second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
J, resolution authorizing the award of Malaga Road restriping to Zone Striping Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $30,232.20.
So moved.
So moved.
And this was as
Second.
recommended by
Second.
our township engineer. We have a motion and second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Okay, proposed amendment between Fire Grants Helped and the Township of Hamilton in an amount not to exceed $3,250.
So moved.
Mike, what was
Second.
this?
It's for the grant for
It's for the grant for the...
It's for the radios.
the radios,
for the
okay,
fire
great.
departments.
Yeah, just wanted to get clear on that. We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
L, resolution awarding bid 2017-03 Underhill Park restrooms to R. Maxwell Construction Company for the base bid in the amount of $220,000, no award for alternate two.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I just want to mention on that, this is something we've worked hard on as committee for the Underhill bathrooms, and I'm so glad to see this on the agenda. We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
And finally, M, resolution authorizing the upfitting of a Ford Utility Interceptor for a total of $7,963.75 from Birch's Communications, source of funds for Fire Department.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Which fire department is this, Mike?
This is for Laureldale.
Laureldale. We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Aren't you glad we approved the sending out of those who did?
Yes. 6, the consent agenda. I'd like to get a motion to approve items A through D on the consent agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, it's a resolution.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Against, abstain. Motion carries. Let's see what we have here.
Personnel.
Personnel, number 7. A, appoint Lisa Marcolongo, the Township of Hamilton Municipal Alliance Coordinator, effective July 1st, 2017 to June 30th, 2018, at $2,000 annually, to be paid quarterly from the 2017 Municipal Alliance Grant, as recommended by the Municipal Alliance Chair.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
B, appoint Edward Hyman as a truck driver laborer 2 at $33,848.78 annually, effective June 20th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Authorize a $2,870.27 pay increase to Mary Teresa Drager, Administrative Assistant in the Construction Code Office, as per recommendation of the Township Administrator, effective January 13th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes. I think you skipped
Did you
Mr.
just-
Kepner.
Go ahead.
C.
Did he do
We
C?
didn't do C.
No.
Yeah, you
Skip C.
You skip C.
Oh,
My glasses.
we'll back up. C, appoint Jason Kepner as a truck driver laborer, 1 at $32,356.23 annually, effective June 20th, 2017, contingent upon obtaining a CDLA within 1 year.
So moved.
Second.
Seven.
Motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
E, resolution appointing municipal alliance members for the term July 30th, 2017 through June 30th, 2018.
So moved.
So
Second.
moved.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Personnel F. On F, we want to change the wording as part of the agenda late list, change the wording to read as follows. Resolution to rescind Brett Knoll's resignation as Director of Public Works and to set his annual salary at $90,000, effective to be determined.
So
Date to
moved.
be determined.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Excuse me, I have a question.
Sure, go
To be
When
determined.
you say date to be determined, what
Is it
are
now?
we doing here?
Mike?
I don't know the notice provision that he's, in other words, he hasn't told his employer yet, I assume. Once he tells them, he'll have to talk about notice, and I don't know whether it be 2 weeks or 2 days.
So it's in the near future?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on. 8, approvals.
Take the
Did we
vote on
vote?
that.
We didn't vote
Oh,
yet.
yeah.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
No.
I don't, and I've been clear about this all along, I don't think we should be rewarding someone who has left his position, seeked employment in another town, and came back. I think Brett does a great job, and I'm glad to have him back. But I think we should open him with, welcome with open arms and not an open checkbook. He's a good worker. He does a great job. There's a lot of people in this township that also do the same thing. And we are setting a precedent here. When do you say no to somebody because everybody does a good job here? And I've heard that time and time again. So I'm voting no on the increase in salary. I believe that we gave the public a budget, and we were very open with that budget. And when we keep adding things like this should be done at the end of the year when we go into another budget. And that's just how I feel. So I'm going to vote no.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
Motion carries 4 yes, 1 no.
Number 8, approvals. A, minutes of June 5th, 2017, regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Wait a second. Were you at that meeting?
Oh, the fifth one?
Yeah, you think you were
No, I can't,
away.
I can't
Yeah.
second it.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
B, minutes of June 2nd, 2017, special executive session.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
I can't.
Abstain?
You would like to
Abstain.
abstain?
Yes.
Mr.
We have a
Schenker,
motion and a
yes.
second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Abstain.
Abstain. Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 abstention. Motion carries.
C, minutes of June 5th, 2017, executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Abstain.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz.
Yes.
4 yes,
D.
1 abstention.
D, payrolls and bills, a bill list total of $1,228,978.67.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz.
Yes.
All yes and carry.
9, reports. Administrator?
Nothing to add.
Okay. Solicitor?
Nothing bad.
Whoa.
And our engineer, Kevin?
You have our report. I just wanted a quick update on two things. Our road program is moving along. We're in the specification stage, surveyed the roadways. We went out and looked at a couple more roads in the hopes that based on initial budgeting, we may be able to stretch our road budget a little bit further than originally thought. So we actually surveyed more roads this year than we thought we would do for this year's program. We'll see how it goes. I'll keep the committee posted. But as you know, we spoke with the Benderson people today, and I'm sure you're going to expound on that, Mr. Mayor, a little bit. But, just to update you and the rest of the committee, they are still actively involved and engaged in the planning process with their existing plans and expected to appear back before the planning board with the evolution of some additional planning work. So they are still actively involved, and we are still engaged in making sure that they're staying with the original decision resolution with the requirements that they had and any modifications that they may make.
Question, Mr. Dixon. You started out by saying I wrote a program. Did I hear you right, or?
The road program.
Oh, the road program. Okay, I got you.
When do you think we'll be out to bid for that, Kev?
I would say we would be in July. We will definitely be out to bid in July.
Good. Thank you.
Great. Township committee members, I would like to go first, and I'd just like to first reiterate the information on the Benderson. We had a very good meeting today with that. Everyone knows, you see that big field out there with beautiful sidewalks and curbs and lighting facilities, and everyone's wondering, including the township, what are the plans on what's going to happen there. We really can't discuss the individual plans, but we did get the answer we wanted to hear, and that's that they're a very good company to deal with. They're looking to continue to develop that site. They are going to come before the planning board, like our engineer said, and present some possible changes on some things there on the project, but they're going to move ahead with it, and that is very good news. So we also worked out some details about, or we're working out some details about maintenance and things that have to be done on the site, like piles of dirt, and but they address that. And we're just very happy to say that they are moving ahead. And part of the project will hopefully be started relatively soon.
Does it make sense, well, I may, Mayor, Kevin, to put a traffic count on that volunteer way with the new addition to see just what's going through there?
Actually, I do believe it does make a lot of sense, especially when they're about to appear before the planning board again.
Yes, okay.
Right, that's a good point,
Yeah,
Roger.
that was my
So I
question.
think, and just thinking about it, because there's a lot of options coming up, and I think we're all elated to hear that today, and I think it'll make a big difference in the neighborhoods also in the terms of how they receive it and the alleviation of the traffic situation on both ends, and I think it's going to go a long way. So it was good.
I would add, Roger, that a speed study would also be very effective, very useful, as well as counts.
Good.
Mike, can you make a note of that? We'll talk to the...
Yeah, I think that, I'm just curious, because I see a lot of usage going through there now.
And a lot of speed.
A lot of
Yes.
speed.
Yeah.
Tickets, right, Stacy?
I don't know. I
Yeah, but I've seen them go through there. Also, they're going to, also as part of this project, they're going to finish developing that Renaissance Road that runs through the middle. Is that correct, Kevin?
Yes, I think
Yeah.
that's a welcome addition for the
Big
westbound
time,
traffic,
yeah.
yes.
So that like, comes right through to the traffic light across from Hamilton Commons. So that'll be part of this next development. So that isn't going to sit. That's going to be done.
Which will then, because the westbound direction is basically closed in the Volunteer Way, it will allow traffic going west to cut up through the property and meet that new traffic signal intersection
Right.
At the Black Horse Pike and be able to turn left and go westbound, which will avoid then the intersection of McKee and Black Horse Pike.
Absolutely. And that was good news to hear because it's part of the redevelopment of the certain areas that they're going to work on first.
And this will be done without the store, before the stores are there, or it's not dependent on the stores? They're going to,
We're not sure how they're going to phase that, but it's going to be in conjunction with a few changes they want to make to the plans.
You know, thinking about that, how imminent is it before Conifer Realty breaks ground on New York Avenue?
I'm glad you asked that question because I meant to mention to you that right after you did the consent agenda, I was asked, and I did text Conifer that the consent agenda was approved, which means they want to start tomorrow.
My real concern...
The bond's been posted.
And it has been for years, as it is other people. New York Avenue is going to be a nightmare.
It's going to be a difficult situation. We had a pre-construction meeting with them.
Are they obligated to make any improvements there, Kev?
I don't know what the plans call for specifically. We didn't do the review of those plans when it was being approved, but they certainly are making some improvements with regards to traffic control during construction, and their main entrance is coming off New York, so there will be some traffic congestion as a result of this project, and everybody's well aware of it and on heightened alert in terms of traffic control needs. With respect to improvements in New York Avenue, I have not taken a closer look at the plans as to what those improvements would be.
And I forgot to ask you, are we getting bombarded with utility openings like the gas company?
In my opinion, just my observation, an incredible number of road opening permit applications, yes, from the gas company. Quite a very high number, very high volume of opening requests.
Seem to get hit pretty hard with them.
Yeah, we're actually having a pre-construction meeting this week with South Jersey Gas for all these road openings and in their office in Pleasantville.
Really?
are these all associated with replacement only, or is there some new lines being installed also?
Repairs, replacement,
Repairs and replacement.
and addition,
And addition?
new lines.
What always bothered
Everything.
me is they always seem to find an emergency use right after we finish paving when we,
Right after the paving is done.
Yeah, they want to open the road.
There's somehow an emergency at that time.
is
Been
there any
seeing that
way?
for decades.
Is there any way, do we notify them now when we're going to pave? We do?
Yes.
We do, yes.
Because I know when I was in another position at one time, we used to have meetings with all the utility companies when we were doing a major paving job and let them know that you're not touching this road unless it's an extreme emergency.
They'll have to demonstrate an emergency in this case for,
And if you do touch it and it's not an emergency, you're going to fix it all.
Right.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, they've got to be brought to task, you know that.
Yes.
And hopefully, with your oversight, it will happen.
Even if it is an emergency, if it's a new roadway, they'll have to pave it at least half width, and it'll be infrared joint paving to blend it in perfectly.
Great. Anything else?
That's it, thank you.
Okay, great. Also, I'd like to just mention, this weekend is our big event, the Hometown Celebration put on by the Mays Landing Merchants Association at Lake Lenape Park, and it's Saturday, January 24th, this coming Saturday at 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's a one-day event this year. The plans are very aggressive. They have a great day going on with things indoors and outdoors, from the model train exhibit in the catering hall to a lot of different events outside, music, food. It's going to be a really, really big event this year. We're going to have a pooch parade, which we do every year. Judy helps with that. And also a lot of nice vendors out there for people to see, and different things going on from the township. We're working on some of those things still now, like a canine demonstration, which is always very popular over there. And we have our fire department here who does our parking and does a great job at Hometown. So thank you, Chris, I appreciate that too. Pass that on from the merchants.
Rain date,
staff.
John?
No, there's no rain date. There's a lot going on that's under pavilions and inside. So if we have some rain, the festivities will still continue. Also, this weekend is the championship baseball games being played out at Underhill Park. This is a big event, and we expect a significant number of people coming to those games. The Mays Landing Merchants Association is working with the Athletic Association president and members, and there's some lags between the games of a little over 2 hours in some instances. The Merchants Association has arranged to have a jitney that will run people during that lag time from the games over to the hometown celebration. It was a great partnership that we had with the Merchants Association, so our intentions are to have a stop, a safe stop there in front of Underhill Park and a sign, and it will be announced during the games that if the team that's playing has lag time that's as great as 2 hours or more, that get a jitney and go over and spend some time at the hometown, and they can get a jitney back at the same time. It's just going to continue to make loops all day. So that's new this year, but I thought it was a great partnership between the
Good idea.
the two teams, and between the Merchants Association and the baseball. That's all I have. Art?
I just wanted the Underhill Park bathrooms. I know we just awarded it. How long do you guesstimate before we can use them?
I'll get you that and email it to you. I'll talk to Steve.
Okay. The other question I have is is putting a new water main in the budget? Or is the MUA doing that?
No, it's in the budget, it's in the price for the bathroom, to do the water tap.
Yeah.
Each tap. Mhm.
Increasing that to a 2-inch line, as we
Has to be
discussed,
increased.
right, Art?
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, that's all I have, John.
great. Roger?
Michael, when are we going to get a response back from the engineer regarding the hockey courts? When they're committed to start going, they have a plan for it?
Well, September 1st to October 30th is the
Those
time
are the
it's gonna be
days they're going to
closed.
start with what they're going to do there, right?
That's when they're going to
Can
close.
we get an
for-
update on that before September so we have an idea about it?
Sure.
What they're going to do, what the plan is?
Sure.
If they're going to remove, replace, Okay.
Is that going to interfere with their
Season?
seasons?
They're aware of it, and they're going to move things around.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Rodney?
I had a chance to attend the Oakrest graduation along with Mayor Kurtz and Judy Link, and it was an excellent affair. I think it's the first time the weather has been so great. I was there a couple of years ago, and it had a tremendous downpour, but this time it was excellent. I did notice, however, that the class was quite small. What was it, 232, I think, or?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a small class.
And I know in the past, when my kids graduated there, I think it was over 400. So I guess a lot of that is due to, ACIT and Cedar Creek. But I did note that they've got a big, beautiful building there that now has air conditioning, and so on and so forth, and we have a reduced student population. But it was great to see the school spirit, and great to see the diversity of the class. The speech was an excellent speech given by the valedictorian, who we had here and awarded. I think that was the last meeting.
Yep.
Yes.
She did a great job, so it was very enjoyable. The SCAC meeting. Well, I think you heard that. That's excuse me. The senior advisory committee is planning events, and I think it was mentioned as we just gave approval for a health fair that'll be at the mall, and it sounds like I think it'll be a great event. So hopefully you can think about that. And at the hometown celebration, there'll be an opportunity to sign up for the veterans groups that are out here. There'll be tables, and for the Green Team and the Senior Advisory Committee. So hopefully some of you will take advantage of that. Also, I think I mentioned traffic safety presentation, which is put on by a couple of officers that work for the SJTPO. South Jersey Transportation Authority. I've spoken to schools and other groups and are arranging to have that presentation presented to those groups. And I would encourage anybody here who has an interest or a group that may benefit from traffic safety that covers the spectrum. It covers seating, and they have a presentation for older people. They have a presentation for kids. They have a presentation that deals with the physics of crashes. Very, very good presentation. And anybody that's interested, they're interested in serving as many people as they can. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Judy?
I'd like to echo the comments that Rodney said about the graduation. It was really very, very nice. I thought I heard maybe a little clap of thunder in the background, but it didn't come to fruition, so that was really good.
It was 177th Jets.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. Didn't scare us, though.
I also attended the Hanson House concert at Harrah's, which is, I believe, the 12th one that they've done. And their whole object is to help the recovering addict, as well as provide. There are many Serenity houses, like 8 of them, that they go to after they're detoxed. They do a marvelous, marvelous job. And then they've started a garden where they're raising organic, vegetables and that sort of thing. So it was themed with the 80s, and most of the entertainers actually started in 1980, and it was very sensational. I was approached by a young man who is involved in the soccer program, and he felt that some of the fields were not up to par. So I was wondering if we can have Brett go over and check them out and see what's happening there. We're spending a lot of money on one aspect, which is great, but soccer has always been a big thing in our area. And they've taken, as Mike says, they've taken care of their own fields, which is great. But I was just curious if, Brett, if you could go take a look at the soccer fields. He said there's 2 of them that are in poor condition. So I think that's it.
If I might ask, Judy, the concert, the Hanson House concert, I had a chance one year to attend that. Just fantastic. I would recommend it for all of you. And I think that time was Brigado. Was that where it was held, or was it?
Yes, it was at the Brigado.
Excellent concert, which I'd highly recommend. Thank you.
They do a lot of good. Such a terrible situation. They're facing the same thing that everybody else is, the premature deaths through heroin, that sort of thing. And in fact, I was talking to this one fellow that goes to the prisons to counsel, and he said 2 of the people that he had counseled last week are dead this week. So it's a uphill battle, but they're really trying hard.
All right, thank you, Judy. I'd like to open it up to public comment. I seen Harry raise his hand first, and then Bruce.
He's going to say something about me.
Harry Rogers, 1069 Morningside Drive. I'd like to make a comment about Ms. Gatto's proposal to change the use of the park. You could very easily find yourself victims of your own success in this regard, especially if it's opened up to commercial traffic. It's a very popular venue, has been for over 100 years. Some of the parties there have been way over the top.
Big time.
Now, you find yourself in a tough spot. It's public property, but if you open it up to commercial renting, I'm trying to think of the right word, but if you open up to commercial use and allow promoters to bring in different special events to take advantage of these relaxed regulations, a sharp promoter is going to tie that thing up for the whole summer. And when you turn around and try and deny, oh, well, we're not going to approve you, well, then they're going to turn around and sue you for discrimination. Why are you turning me down? I think you have to seriously look at, as much as it breaks my heart to say this, you have to seriously look at making this not open to commercial activities. Keep it to nonprofits, fundraisers, that sort of thing. But if you open it up to commercial activity, I think you're going to find yourself hating yourself in the morning. Please consider that when you're looking at these ordinances and the different mechanisms you're looking at for approvals. You can paint yourself into a really bad corner. One other comment, Mr. Shanker, I agree 100% with your objection to the rehire. I think you're right. It sets a terrible precedent. Number two, it shouldn't be done mid-year. And I really think the board made a significant mistake in that regard. Thank you.
It's debatable, Harry.
Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bruce Stry. To follow up with what Harry said, and also with what Mrs. Link said, I think with the issue of Green Acres money that went to purchase, in part, Lenape Park, I think that it would be advisable to really go back to the original purchase of Lenape Park and start back at the beginning and read and study the conditions upon which those monies were spent to purchase that property. I do know that in some cases the county, not to go into detail, but in my opinion they're a little lax on some of the rules and regulations they follow as far as state statutes and others. So I think maybe it might behoove the township and the county for that matter to really go back to square one and find out and study exactly what is permitted under the original purpose and the agreement of Green Acres money.
And not to interrupt you, Bruce, but I believe that's the direction we're going tonight is to do that. And
I understand.
It's a good point, and I think everybody pretty much agrees.
And you might want to, just start with square one all over again.
Right.
If I may comment on that, Mayor?
Certainly, go ahead.
I think my recommendation on that regard would be to bring this to Green Acres' attention and have them review it, give them the resolution provided to us, give them the proposed ordinance, give them copies of the existing ordinance, and have them review it. That's not something we're going to be able to actually take action on. And frankly, to pay me to look at whether the county's complying with Green Acres, when Green Acres can do that themselves and it's their obligation to, I think is not a great use of your resources.
So Evan, is that something you're proposing that we do, that you do?
My recommendation would be that Phil or the administrator contact Green Acres and provide this information.
Quickly as
I
possible.
agree with that.
Yeah, very quickly, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's good, and thank you.
The second item, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I was looking at items under discussion and introductions of ordinances, and it's, everybody has their own interest. Are any of these proposed, and forgive me, they may be there, I just didn't find them or look for them properly. Are these proposed resolutions and ordinances printed ahead of this meeting on the website? I don't think they are, no. May I respectfully ask that in the future, these would be included when the agenda is printed for public view online? I know I requested the same thing of the school board several years ago. They have a long agenda. They list the item of the backup information. You get most of it, I'm sure. For example, in this particular case, I would have been interested in reading the proposed resolution establishing and adopting the streets policy. Being a member of the zoning board, it would have interested me, and I perhaps would have known a little more about what you were talking about. Other people have different interests. This one in particular would have, been something for me to look at. So the MUA does it. I don't think they put it online, but they provide to the board members online in the form of an email backup material, so the public can see exactly what the issue is. So if you could consider that for in the public interest, that would be helpful.
Can I ask you a question on that? Do we put online most of what's in this package?
No.
After the,
I don't think you put any of it on.
yeah, we don't put any of it on. Well, that's that's quite a bit of information here. I don't know.
Well, I mean, for example, if you go to the school board agenda, before they would print the agenda, and then it would make a reference to whatever item was. It was in the school board members' packet. They now put the whole thing on there. Sometimes there's 150 pages, okay? But you've already done the work. It's typed. You put it online and it's there. So anybody that's interested, you can go to it, look at the invoice, or not the invoice, but the item number, then go down to the item and you can read. If you're interested, fine. But I think it would be a service to the public at no real extra cost. Of course, maybe a little extra time on Rita's part, but I think it's something that I wish you would explore.
Read.
Well, you were spending a little bit of money tonight. There might be a little extra for Rita.
So you're looking for the
Backup
resolutions
information.
to be
Yeah,
on?
for instance, like for example, there's a proposed resolution.
Yeah,
If you would,
okay.
if you would take that resolution that you have in front of you
Right.
and post that online with your agenda, and at the top, you just pencil in, or however you want to do it, 3A. And then if anybody's interested, you can go to it and you read it and you come here. If you're interested, you'll know that the public will know what you're talking about.
So
know what
you're
talking
looking at resolutions and ordinances, principally.
Well,
Is
any
that
backup
correct?
material that you have. I mean,
All the backup material that we have?
For the agenda items.
with the agenda items, sure. Something to consider. For example, if you go to the Hamilton Township School Board agenda, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, if you're interested in doing that. Something I requested several years ago, and they do it, because they didn't really argue about it. I think it was pretty easy for them to do. I'm just asking if you would consider that in the interest of the public.
What about okay, you want to post it online?
Just with the agenda, and then you can just scroll down, and I don't think it's a hard thing to do. So, I agree with Mr. Schenker on Mr. Knowles' rehire and the money that was awarded. Brett's a great guy. He does a good job for the township, but you set the budget, and that's it. I thought your budget was good this year, but when you start doing these things, you just kind of open yourself up for criticism. And I appreciate Art's position on that. The other thing I'd like to bring up is, as a member of the MUA, the MUA is considering moving their offices from Kenskull Avenue to the operations facility on Old Egg Harbor Road. The MUA approved hiring an architect to look into it. However, I think they got a little bit ahead of themselves. The architect was going to present options. However, one of the options that they obviously did not print was staying there and renovating. And my concern is, the township is going through a neighborhood redevelopment plan, I believe that keeping that facility there, I don't see, nobody's really justified moving it at this point. They kind of skipped that step. It was kind of a rubber stamp type thing. It was in a committee, a subcommittee, so the whole board was not aware of the decision. But I think keeping activity in Mays Landing opposed to moving offices to Old Egg Harbor Road would be important. I know when the county moved their offices from Main Street, we were a little concerned because it took activity away from Main Street. So this is a much smaller scale, but I think you should be aware that I believe that moving that office to there, you may end up with a vacant building. We don't need another vacant building. It's a brick building. It's in fine shape. It could use some renovation. One of my suggestions is on the third option with they have two options. I asked them to add a third. One of them would be using Town Hall, this building, for their monthly meetings. I think in shared services, I think you might agree with that. That way the ratepayers don't have to build, and it's part of both options, to build another meeting room, which would be used once a month. So there are other options.
Why don't you ask them to resurrect their plans from 10 years ago when we looked at moving the operation from where they currently are over to Underhill? And the plan at that time, it was going to be $1 million to build a facility, and we scrapped it because it was off the wall, okay?
Thank you.
I think you're going to be looking at similar costs today.
I think somebody mentioned $2 million, and I think, there was recently they talked about emergency plans, so if they're really concerned about emergency preparation, in other words, with the American Water interconnect, the issue was which, by the way, that plan has been scrapped after a year of needless, well, I won't say needless discussion, but they did come to their senses and didn't hook into the American Water Company. But anyway, I just wanted you to be aware because the township is involved in the neighborhood development plan, and I think it is questionable whether it's a good move to move it over there. And now that I know that this plan has been resurrected from 10 years ago, I guess it's deja vu all over again at the MUA. So, so I think they're the only one other small thing on the consent agenda, approved business registration licenses. My question, and I've asked this before, I don't think I got a clear answer, but when businesses apply for the registration, there are requirements. They have to meet all the there's requirements to obtain the business registration, which includes being compliant with all of our township ordinances.
Right.
Is that, do we strictly comply with that? Does somebody go out and actually check to make sure that signage, parking, and all that? And does someone sign off on that, or is that just kind of a rubber stamp?
Well, I believe it was taken care of properly. Okay. Yeah, I do. But
so you know,
Phil, do you have any comment on that?
Make sure all developmental ordinances are...
Before it gets to you, it gets reviewed by zoning for compliance with zoning as far as the use. Goes through fire prevention and construction to make sure that there's no outstanding issues with them. We do require for reoccupancy of buildings for them to come in and do a certificate of continued zoning for the property, make sure that the use being proposed is consistent with what was existing and approved on record.
Okay, great. Thank you. That answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Bruce.
Okay. So I would like, just to reiterate the MUA, I think that would be important to...
No, that's a good point. Very good point.
Because we really don't want to lose activity along Main Street, although it's a half a block off. I don't think it would be, it wouldn't be prudent to just arbitrarily just move over there without studying.
And expensive.
Yeah.
Could you briefly mention what the impetus for this move is? What's the problem that they're solving by?
That's a good. I think they skipped that step, to be honest with you.
Well, you sure you have some idea of what it is?
Well, no, quite. No, I'll be honest with you. No, many boards like this one and others, not necessarily this one in particular, but will appoint subcommittees. The construction, finance, policy. In the case of the MUA, there are each committee has 2, and then the administrator will meet with that committee, and then they're off and running, and those discussions are not held before the full board. So in this particular case, the construction committee recommended we hire an architect to look at the different options. However, the options weren't stated. One of the options that was obviously left out was staying there in that facility and just renovating. So there was no real discussion between the whole board. There was no discussion in public. So after, and the reason I came to this is, I asked to see if there were any plans, and there were, and I looked at them, and there were 2 options, and both options were different renovations to the site on Old Egg Harbor Road. My question was, why haven't we determined if there is a need to go there?
Need assessment, yeah.
So there's no need assessment. Okay, it was just somebody just decided we're moving. And I did ask what are the costs, and of course there was no answer. Well, we don't have the cost because we don't have the architectural plan, which makes sense. But I'm disappointed that in this particular case, there was no need assessment provided. And one of the options wasn't renovating the building we're in. From a neighborhood planning perspective, I think the Township Committee should at least be aware, and also the request that the MUA is permitted to use this building, this meeting room, once a month for their meeting, which would, we wouldn't need to build a new. And also part of the plan was that we're going to need to build at that site an elevator to get up to the 2nd floor. So so it's getting kind of crazy, I know, but that's.
Yeah,
so anyway, this room is handicap accessible.
I think we can find them space here.
Pardon me?
I think we can find them space for a meeting.
But I just wanted to bring that to your attention, so.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Okay, that's it. Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else like to comment?
I hope this mayor is less winded as the other mayor was. Good evening, lady and gentlemen.
Good evening, Jack.
A couple of questions. Complete street policy. What does that entail, essentially, when you talk about a complete street?
It entails guidelines to take into account when you're renovating, when you're building a new street, and these guidelines are intended to take into account the pedestrians, bicycles, and other uses of streets, kids going to school, and that kind of thing. What it really is just a very comprehensive attempt to put together good guidelines, and by the way, this certainly would include sidewalks, good guidelines for...
That's the magical word.
That's the magic word.
I didn't bring that up, you brought
it up.
But as you know, when you build a highway, highways are extremely expensive, and at least in the past, that was frequently done without giving consideration to other things, and that's the attempt of this policy is to take those things into account.
Well, for example, then a classic example would have been Park Road. If we had a complete street policy, there would be sidewalks on Park Road as part of the construction.
Yeah, keep in mind here, though, that this is not a requirement. These are guidelines. The controlling body would make the decision as to what is or what's not done. But it does form a discipline to look at these other uses and to plan for it, to take that into account.
Would this also go up the line to the county and to the state?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that I'm pushing and the Citizens Advisory Committee is pushing is to have the whole 4-county area, the South Jersey Transportation Program Office 4-county area, adopt a complete streets policy. Now, one of the counties, I think it's Cumberland County, was it? Anyway, one of the counties has already done that. And I think, and by the way, I mentioned the additional points when you go out for grants. That's one of the reasons why I think North Jersey gets a lot more grant money than we do, because that's one of the things that helps get the grants approved.
I notice when the county or the state improves intersections, they're putting the pedestrian signals up, they're putting the ADA pads down, but they don't connect them to anything. They're just there. They're not connected to another pad over there. So this would be good if this would follow up the chain, get the county to do this and get the state to do it also.
Well, that was the original goal. We'll see if that happens.
I'm always amazed. I always think I'm pretty up to some of this wording that we use in what we call government speak. We are now going to upfit a vehicle. What are we upfitting? What is
Lights and sirens. Lights and sirens.
Why don't you just say lights and sirens instead of upfitting? We have a new word, so we're going to upfit some vehicles.
Well, you weren't the only one. The mayor said uplift the first time.
It might be something,
something we
other
can't
than
just
just lights and
model.
sirens
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah.
I didn't know if we wanted to prepare a whole list of it,
So, since we're purchasing some new vehicles, we'll be taking vehicles out of service and putting them in the bid pile. We're going to get rid of them out the door. Public safety, and I was involved in both public works and public safety when I sat on your side of the table. Public safety is very important. Consider, public safety being a table, and there's 4 legs on a table to make it a sound, secure objective. A 3-legged table is not too good. It'll fall over. Well, one of the legs of the table is public safety, the police department. That's probably the most expensive from the standpoint of manpower. The other leg is the fire service, which has very expensive equipment. We have the emergency medical services. They have very expensive equipment plus personnel. And we seem to be, we're close to putting $1 million a year into public safety. Well, the police department, their leg gets filled, and the fire department, their leg gets filled, and emergency service, medical service, their legs get filled, but one leg of the table, emergency management, gets nothing. We get some OE objects that we can maybe buy shirts and water and stuff like that. I've been involved since Vince Bozzo. I don't know whether anybody knew Vince Bozzo or not. Was the director of emergency management, and that's 30, 35 years ago. And I'm involved in this also. The governing body, in that whole period of time, has not spent one dime, not one dime, on capital equipment, a command and control center, a mobile command and control center. Not one dime has this governing body spent in emergency management. So you have a hollow leg on that part of the table. That's the weak link. And somewhere along the line, I would ask that maybe you consider putting some money into emergency management, other than shirts and water and some of the supplies that we hand out, cones and things like that. So think about it.
Well, Jack,
it's
all
important.
I can tell you, I sit at the meeting as well as other committee people have, where the departments can come in and request things. All I can say is put it in writing, come before us, and that's how things get approved. I think it's a legitimate question, but I'd like to see what they're looking for, and give us an opportunity to say, yes, we want to do that. Yes. So
it's a support agency.
Yeah.
It has federal support. It's called FEMA.
Yeah.
It's called FEMA. It comes from the national side. It's incident command. The fire departments created incident command, and the emergency management is all in for incident command and command and control. Support. It's a support service. So just think about it.
I agree. That's what
Do
I
some
say.
reading, do some research on it, and maybe we can come up with some sort of an answer. All right?
Good point. Thanks,
Thank you.
Gary.
Thank you.
Chris, come on up.
All right, Chris Tilley, Chief of Lauderdale. I just wanted to thank you guys for considering our new truck. My truck committee worked very hard to build the truck that's going to fit our needs 100%, which we did, and I appreciate all your support. I know a lot of the budget goes towards public safety, and it's not easy to balance that budget, but again, I appreciate it, and thank you.
I appreciate that, Chris. Thank you very much. I'm sure all committee does, yes. Any other member of the public wish to speak?
Move to close the public portion.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstain? Okay. 11, adjourn to executive session. Rita, could you read the resolution, please?
Yes. Be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton that this meeting be adjourned to an executive session to discuss the following matters which are exempt from public discussion pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law. Dispute regarding ownership of Block 1132.01, Lot 30, and payment of taxes, attorney-client privilege, and anticipated litigation. Be it further resolved that the governing body may reconvene in public session and confirm the results of the executive session if there is a majority consensus for action to be taken on the matter tonight.
We're looking for a motion to approve the resolution to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstain? Adjourn to executive session.
Cleanup,
We're back
which
in.
is BS.
We're good.
Finished up on
No, I didn't finish
Okay.
it.
So, Evan, what we're looking for then is a motion for our solicitor to file a quick claim deed for the amount of the certificate. Is that close?
I will provide the exact language.
Go ahead.
For-
Rita's listening.
So, a resolution authorizing the preparation of a quitclaim deed, transferring any ownership of the township in Block 1132.01, Lot 30, to Elcourt LLC, that's E-L-K-O-R-T, Elcourt, in exchange for payment in the amount of $14,010.17, as adjusted through July 1st, 2017, which is the outstanding amount on the tax sale certificate that the township attempted to foreclose under docket number ATL-F-14363-15. With that quitclaim deed to be executed by the clerk and the mayor and be recorded in the office of the county clerk.
All resolution.
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Rita, we don't need a, do we need a roll call on that?
Yeah,
You can do one, sure.
Here, please.
to get one, right?
Yep.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Adjourn.
Motion to